My sister announced her pregnancy at my wedding reception, in front of 80 guests. My grandmother had written something for this exact moment. The Whitfield Estate, Concord. 80 guests. 2 years of saving for the venue. My sister stood up during the toasts and picked up her glass. She stood up, picked up her glass, waited until everyone was watching. Then she said, "I have an announcement. At my wedding reception, this envelope." My grandmother's attorney placed it on my table before the ceremony. "Open only if you need it." I needed it. My grandmother. My sister's pattern. The envelope. What I read aloud in that ballroom. All of it, start to finish. Let me start with my grandmother, because without her, none of this ends the way it does. She taught 3rd grade in Cambridge for 31 years. She read people the way she read books, carefully, with notes in the margins. She said, "People tell you who they are every day. Your job is to pay attention." I was 8 years old. I started paying attention. My sister has always known how to find the moment when everyone is watching someone else and redirect it. My whole life. My graduation dinner, she announced her college acceptance. My promotion celebration, she called Mom crying about a breakup, every time she genuinely believed the moment required it. Grandma Dot said, "Jessica isn't mean, she's the sun, she thinks everything orbits her." This is a failure of imagination. I've made a note of it. We met at work in Boston. He got coffee with me every day for 3 months before he asked me to dinner. When I told him about Jessica, he said, "Okay, that was it." He proposed in my childhood neighborhood in Dorchester. Said, "I wanted to start from the beginning of you. Dorothy sent a card. Daniel understands you. Don't lose that." She had a heart condition from her late 70s. She said, "I may or may not be there, but I will send something either way." She visited Mr. Foster at his office on Broad Street 4 times in her last year. Every visit was about the same envelope. About Sarah. She asked Mr. Foster to attend the wedding. Give Sarah the envelope before the ceremony. Tell her, open it only if you need it, stay nearby. She died in March. 8 months before the wedding. She had already given Mr. Foster the envelope. She had done everything she needed to do. At the funeral, Mr. Foster found me. Said, "Your grandmother asked me to be in touch when you're ready." He gave me his card. I didn't know what he held. 2 months later, I called. He said, "Your grandmother left something. She had written instructions for me. That's when I understood who she really was." He said, "You look like her around the way you hold yourself." He placed a folder on the desk, asked, "Has the wedding date been confirmed?" His instructions, place the envelope on my table before the ceremony. Open it only if you need it. If you do, read it aloud. Those were her words. He told me it contained 2 things: a personal letter from Dorothy and a legal codicil. What the codicil changed depended on whether I needed to open it. I hoped I wouldn't need it. I told myself, it's a wedding. Surely even Jessica understands a wedding. I know. 2 years of planning, 400 hours of decisions, the venue, the flowers, the menu, the seating chart, every detail with intention. I gave Jessica a good seat. Table 4, near the dance floor, visible from the head table. Daniel asked, "Are you sure?" I said, "She's my sister." She was helpful during planning, enthusiastic. Then, 4 months out, she called to tell me she was pregnant. My first feeling was joy. My second, I wonder what she'll do with this. I told her Jessica was pregnant. She said, "Is she going to announce it at your wedding?" I said, "She wouldn't." Dorothy said, "She absolutely will. I'll handle it." She wrote the letter in November and December, sent the final version to Mr. Foster in January. She died in March. She finished it 2 months before she went. I work in marketing. I believe in saying the exact right thing at the exact right moment. My grandmother taught me that. I needed it at my own reception. Daniel met Jessica 10 times before the wedding. He always said, "I see what you mean, never more." Before the wedding, he said, "Whatever you need, I'm with you." The morning was perfect. No anxiety about Daniel, none about the ceremony. One thought, twice, I hope Jessica lets today be today. Concord in September, the estate in that light. I thought Dorothy would have loved this. She liked things with weight to them. 40 minutes before the ceremony, Mr. Foster knocked. He said, "You look exactly right." He placed the envelope in my hands. I held it 3 minutes, her handwriting, the wax seal. Then I put it in my emergency bag and went to marry Daniel. The ceremony was 22 minutes. I cried twice, Daniel's face, and when they said Dorothy's name, she had asked to be mentioned. She was. Mr. Foster stood at the back in a gray suit as she'd asked. I saw him walking back down the aisle. He nodded once. I didn't know yet if I'd need him. The reception started beautifully. The first hour was everything we'd planned for 2 years. I keep thinking about the first hour. The envelope was in my bag at the head table the whole reception. I kept forgetting it was there. And then I'd remember. The toasts were wonderful. My maid of honor made me cry. Daniel's best man made everyone laugh. And then the toasts ended, and Jessica picked up her glass. Jessica stood up at table 4. She picked up her glass. The room began to notice. My hand went flat on the table. I looked at Daniel. She said, "Sarah and Daniel, we're so happy for you." The first 2 sentences were fine. Then I have a little announcement. Michael and I are expecting. The room split. Half congratulating Jessica, half watching me. I could feel both halves. I looked at the bag on my chair. Daniel took my hand under the table. He said very quietly, "Whatever you need," the same words as before. He doesn't say things twice by accident. I opened my bag. I saw the envelope. I closed the bag. I looked at the room. I made a decision in 10 seconds. Dorothy said, "I'll handle it." She had done everything. Written the words. Arranged the delivery. All I had to do was open the envelope and use my voice. I stood up with the envelope in my hand. Daniel saw it. He nodded once, with understanding, not surprise. He was ready for this. I said, "My grandmother passed 8 months ago. She asked her attorney to give me something before the ceremony. Open it only if you need it. I need it today." I broke the seal in the silence of 80 people. The room was completely still. I could hear the wind outside the tall windows. She wrote, "To the family gathered here, my name is Dorothy Calloway, Sarah's grandmother. Something has happened that I anticipated would happen." Dorothy called it a failure to imagine that other people's moments matter as much as one's own. Jessica sat down somewhere in paragraph 1. Dorothy mentioned the codicil, said Mr. Foster was present and prepared to file it. He raised his hand at the back of the room. 80 heads turned. She wrote that I would be reading this with composure, because I had learned to handle hard things without making them about myself. That she was proud. I read the last line. I folded the letter. I did not editorialize. The room was silent for a moment. Then someone began to clap. The last line, "If you are reading this, Jessica did something. She always does. I love you both. Grandma Dot." She loved Jessica too. That's who Dorothy was. After I sat down, the band leader looked at me. I said yes, we continue, we danced. It was still my wedding. Jessica didn't leave. She stayed, ate dinner, watched us dance. She was very still for the rest of the night. I didn't speak to her at the reception. Mr. Foster came to my table during a dance. Said she would have been very pleased. He told me she wrote a staging note. "Sarah will stand up straight. She always does." The codicil removed Jessica from the estate and redirected her share to a Cambridge literacy charity. She didn't act in anger. She redirected. That distinction is everything. Jessica had been expecting a portion of the estate. She received 0. Mr. Foster notified her in writing, in the days after the wedding. My sister announced her pregnancy. My grandmother had written 4 pages in response. She wrote it in her final winter. All of it. For this exact moment. At the end of the night, Daniel said, "Your grandmother really knew you." I said, "Yes, she really did." That was the whole evening in 2 sentences. We ordered pizza and ate it on the kitchen floor at midnight in our wedding clothes. That was our wedding night. I wouldn't change it. We went to Maine for 10 days, no phones after 8 p.m. We read and argued about books. Daniel won most. It was perfect. Day 3, Daniel asked, "What are you thinking about Jessica?" I said, "I'm not thinking about her here. When we get back, yes." He said, "That's fair." Jessica called twice on the honeymoon. I let both go to voicemail. She needed to wait. I wasn't ready. Maine was not for this. The voicemail, "I'm sorry about the announcement. I was excited and didn't think." I said sorry. That was new. I had never heard that word from Jessica before. My mother said, "She really knew what she was doing." My father said, "Dorothy loved you very specifically." Not generally, specifically. He was right. A guest sent a card. I recognized Dorothy's precision in every sentence. She prepared for this like lesson plans, with love and without shortcuts. I kept the envelope on my desk. The broken seal. Her handwriting. My name. The letter is filed. I file things. But the envelope stays out. The Cambridge Literacy Charity. Books and reading tutors for underserved neighborhoods. She taught 3rd grade 31 years. Of course she chose that. I donated too. I called Jessica 2 weeks after the honeymoon. She said, "I didn't expect you to call." I said, "I know. Dorothy would have wanted me to." Jessica said, "I know about the codicil. I understand why." And she said, "I've been thinking about what Dorothy wrote about the failure of imagination. A lot." I said, "I don't need you to understand fully. I need you to try." She said, "I can do that." Dorothy would say, "That's enough to start." Her pregnancy was real. The baby is real. The problem was never the pregnancy, it was the choice of moment. The baby is innocent of all of it. Daniel said, "Your grandmother gave you the most useful wedding gift we received." I said, "She didn't know she would." He said, "Yes, she did." He was right. I went back to the Whitfield Estate alone, the empty ballroom, the head table. Dorothy never saw it. But she was in it. Instead of our first night talking about what Jessica did, we talked about what Dorothy had done. Completely different energy. That's the gift. Her staging note, "Sarah will stand up straight." She always does. That's the most specific act of faith I've ever received. She built everything around it. I'd tell her, "It worked, exactly as designed." She'd say, "Of course." She always said of course, like she'd already seen the outcome. The photographer caught it, me standing in my dress, the envelope in my hand, the room turned toward me. That's the photo I have on my desk. Every morning I sit at this desk and see her handwriting. She's been gone 9 months. But every morning she's right there in the curve of every letter. 1 month in. We argue about dishes. Agree on coffee. A guest sent a card, "Most memorable ceremony I've attended." I don't think she meant the ceremony. What I learned, preparation is a form of love. She prepared for me for 20 years. Thinking about who I'd be. What I might need. Love in advance. Mr. Foster sent one final email when the estate closed. Subject, Dorothy Calloway, administration complete. Last line, she would have appreciated the precision. We donated in her name, The charity funds books for third graders in Cambridge. She taught third grade 31 years. I cried. Daniel handed me a tissue. We watched the video once. You can hear Jessica's announcement, then silence, then my voice. My grandmother left me something. Daniel paused it, said your voice didn't shake. She wrote a paragraph about Daniel, called him precise without being cold, warm without being sentimental. He said, she's right. Then looked embarrassed. Mr. Foster gave me a photocopy of her draft with the staging note. It's framed above the envelope on my desk. Her handwriting, twice, in my field of vision. Has someone ever prepared something for you in advance, with love, that you only understood when you needed it? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. There's more. The conversation with Jessica that changed something. What Mr. Foster told me about the last draft. What Dorothy wrote about forgiveness. Dorothy wrote, forgiving someone doesn't mean forgetting what they chose to do. It means choosing not to carry it forward. That section changed me. Dorothy wrote, I have loved Jessica since she was born. But love does not require silence about the ways someone harms people we love. Both things. Same paragraph. Dorothy documented 3 prior incidents. The graduation dinner, my promotion celebration, a cousin's engagement party. Each one dated. She kept records. She wrote, I documented these so Sarah would know she did not imagine it. It was real. I was there. 3 words for 15 years of wondering. Dorothy wrote, this is not punishment. It is redirection. What is mine, I am sending where it will do the most good. She never called it punishment. She wrote, I spent 31 years giving children the ability to read. Some of what I leave should continue that. The children won't know my name. Exactly right. Mr. Foster mentioned the staging note a few days after the wedding. Would you like a photocopy? I said yes. Then he showed me, Sarah will stand up straight. She wrote it before the ceremony, before she could know if I'd stand. She wrote it as a fact. That's not confidence, that's faith. The most specific faith I've ever received. Draft 1 addressed Jessica directly. Draft 2 addressed the room. She decided Jessica would hear it better if the room heard it first. That's 31 years of teaching. Dorothy's margin note, Jessica hears this best as the room hears it. Not addressed to her, about her. The room as witness changes everything. Several guests told me afterward it felt like Dorothy was in the room. Several people said it independently, without comparing notes. She was. A teacher guest called. Said, I've been waiting 20 years for someone to name the thing precisely, in public, with love. Not anger love. That's the hardest version. Jessica stayed the whole reception, 3 hours at table 4. She was very still. Michael's arm around her. I didn't go to her. The room had said what was needed. Michael texted the morning after. Said, what Jessica did was wrong. She knows it. We're glad you and Daniel found each other. The baby is healthy. I wrote, the baby is wonderful news. What Jessica did was her choice, not a reflection of you both. I'm looking forward to being an aunt. Reread it 5 times. Bar Harbor. 10 days. No phones after 8 p.m. We read the same books and argued about them. Daniel was right about most things. I was right about one important one. Jessica called twice on the honeymoon. I let both go to voicemail. Maine was not the place for that conversation. She could wait. The voicemail, I'm sorry about the announcement. I was excited and didn't think. I know that's not enough. She said that. She has never said that before. Mom said she really knew what she was doing. Dad said, Dorothy loved you very specifically, not the way the rest of us do specifically. He was right. 3 months after Jessica's baby shower, I went. I bought from the registry. I was genuinely there. Dorothy would have expected nothing less. Jessica thanked me specifically when I arrived, not to the room to me. in a room full of people she could have performed it for. She didn't. Different. Alone in the kitchen at the shower, Jessica said, "I've been in therapy since the week after the wedding." She stated it. Didn't ask for a response. I said, "I'm glad. I don't know if therapy changes a 30-year pattern," but she went the week after the wedding. Something started. Dorothy would have said, "Good." Emma rose, 7 pounds, 4 ounces, born on a Tuesday in April. I called Jessica before anyone else. I don't know why. I just did. Emma doesn't know any of it. The announcement, the letter, the codicil. She is 4 hours old and she is completely new. That's everything. I want Emma to know the version of this family that does better. She doesn't need the before. She only needs the after. We're building the after. I'll tell Emma your great-grandmother taught 3rd grade, made the best cookies, paid attention to everything, kept notes. The rest comes when she's ready. I learned I can stand up straight in a ballroom of 80 people when it matters. I wasn't certain before. Dorothy was. She wrote it as fact. Now I know it too. I went back to the Whitfield Estate alone. The empty ballroom. Stood at the head table. It's a beautiful room. Dorothy never saw it, but she was in it. Jessica received formal notification from Mr. Foster's office. Certified mail. 12 days after the wedding. The way Dorothy would have wanted it, precise and proper. Jessica expected a portion, the Cambridge house, some savings. The codicil redirected everything. She received 0. 0 is a number. It's also a message. The house, sold. Savings, literacy charity, 1st edition books, Sarah. Lesson plan notebooks, Sarah. Recipe cards, Sarah. And the letter, which went everywhere. I make one of her recipes every Sunday. The chocolate chip cookies are my beginning, 6 others done. Her handwriting on a stained card, her kitchen in my hands. Daniel said, "I feel like I'm getting to know her through the recipes." I said, "That's what she intended." He said, "I know I could tell from the letter. 31 years of lesson plan notebooks. I've read 14. Precise, specific, warm, the exact qualities as the letter. She was always writing, always preparing. In the 1997 notebook, margin note, Sarah would understand this lesson. October 14th. She was 6 years old. Dorothy had been watching since at least then. Specific love. When someone pays such close attention, they can anticipate you. She was doing that in 1997. 30 years of it became the letter, became the staging note. I called Jessica 2 weeks after the honeymoon. She said, "I didn't expect you to call." I said, "I know. Dorothy would have wanted me to." She said, "I understand." Jessica said, "I've thought every day about the failure of imagination. I can't fix 30 years, but I want to try for the next 30. She was thinking in decades. I said, "I don't need a promise. I need a different pattern. The next family event, let it be someone else's day." She said, "I can try. Trying is the beginning." We text about Emma weekly. We've had lunch 3 times. Cautious and real, not the performance of a good relationship, the beginning of a different one. Mr. Foster's final email, Dorothy Calloway Estate Administration complete. Last line, she would have appreciated the precision of the process. He knew her 18 years. 6 months after, the charity's impact report. 47 children with books. 3 tutors funded for a year. She taught 3rd grade 31 years, and she is still teaching. I visited the classroom. Some books were editions of titles Dorothy used in her own class. I left quickly. I was crying. Daniel had a tissue ready. We make an annual donation to the literacy charity every September 14th, our anniversary, our contribution to Dorothy's work. Once so far. We plan to keep going. The pattern existed. Dorothy documented it, named it with love in front of 80 people. Jessica went to therapy. Volunteers at the charity. The letter worked in every direction. Act 4, the quiet plan. Not the letter that was the execution. The plan is everything before it. 20 years of watching, 6 years of building, all in the margins. Dorothy first visited Mr. Foster about the envelope 6 years before the wedding. Before Daniel existed in the story, she said, "I'd like to prepare something for that day." He asked, "Why now?" She said, "This is the earliest I can be useful." She was 74. She started something she might not live to see. She didn't think about that. She just started. 6 years, 2 codicil updates, 2 letter rewrites, 2 estate review meetings. She never missed one. And she went on living. The plan built in the margins of a full life. Final meeting. January. She said, "I believe the document is complete. Sarah will do what's needed. Jessica will give her the reason." 3 beliefs, all 3 fulfilled. She could control everything except whether Sarah would open the envelope. 30 years of watching told her she would. She trusted that. It was the only variable she left to faith. Observe, 30 years. Document, 6 years. Write, 2 drafts. Deliver, the anteroom. Execute, 30 seconds in a ballroom. She did 36 years. I did 30 seconds. She gave me 36 years of preparation and asked for 30 seconds, the most favorable exchange I've ever been part of. She trusted 30 years on 10 seconds. The envelope is part of my desk now. Every morning when I sit down, I see her handwriting, my name. She's there every morning, not as a memory, as a presence. Daniel framed the staging note without asking. Said she wrote it because it was true. It should be visible. He framed a fact. That's marriage. My desk, the envelope, the staging note frame, Dorothy's photo, the literacy report. Dorothy everywhere. That's on purpose. I took the photo in 2019. She was already 3 years into building the letter. She's in the middle of a thought. She was always in the middle of a thought. We argue about dishes, agree on coffee. He cooks twice, I cook once, we order in twice. The 5th night is always Thai food. He pretends not to know. I pretend to decide. Dorothy wrote, "Marriage is not a ceremony. It's a daily decision. The ceremony is the announcement. The marriage is what you choose every morning after." The letter has come up twice in our marriage. Both times Daniel asked, "What would Dorothy tell you right now?" Both times it changed the conversation. She would say, "Prepare carefully. Say the exact right thing at the right moment. Don't carry what isn't yours alone." 3 instructions and a letter. Enough for a marriage. I sat in one of the small chairs. Books she would have recognized on the shelves. I left quickly. I was crying. She would have approved of every detail. Jessica started volunteering at the literacy charity without telling me first. 3 Saturdays a month. Then she told me. Doing it first is harder than announcing it. My first thought, Dorothy would find this extremely satisfying. In a teacher way. The lesson took. The student did the work. She would have said, "Good. Just good." Dorothy, 31 years teaching, estate to the literacy charity. Letter brings Jessica to volunteer there. Children get books and know nothing of this. They just get books. What I carry is not the things. What I carry is the knowledge that I was seen completely, while she was alive and after she was gone. That goes everywhere. Daniel said, "You have evidence now that you were seen. You can look at it whenever you need to." Evidence. That's the right word. It's on my desk. For 15 years, I wondered, am I imagining the Jessica pattern? Am I too sensitive? Dorothy answered, no, publicly. In front of 80 people. No, you were not imagining it. Daniel said, "You seem more settled since the wedding. Not happier, more settled. Like something unresolved for a long time got resolved." He was exactly right. Every morning, the evidence on my desk. Her handwriting. My name. The staging note. Dorothy's photo. I don't need to read the letter daily. The envelope is enough. Dorothy's house before it sold, I walked through one last time. Sat at the kitchen table 5 minutes, where she showed me who to be when I was 8. The new family, young couple, 2 kids, expecting a third. I hope they have conversations at that table. I hope the children pay attention. Most people don't. Dorothy did. We're donating most of Dorothy's first edition books to the literacy charity. Keeping 3, the ones she read to me. The rest go where they'll do the most good. I'm keeping all 31 years of lesson plan notebooks. Every one. Someday they should be properly archived. She deserves an archive. I carry the ability to stand up in a difficult room. The knowledge that what I've been carrying is real. Permission to use my voice. 3 things that don't weigh anything. I no longer carry, wondering if I imagined it. Staying quiet when I had something to say, feeling like I didn't quite fit. She took those. Threw a 4-page letter in a ballroom. 6 months married. He knows I need 20 minutes alone after work. I know he needs the TV off when he's thinking. We're building something specific. On the anniversary, I noticed the truest love works before the other person knows it's there. Like a foundation. By the time they need it, it's already been built. The 2nd March since she died. I brought the cookies fresh that morning. I told her everything. Emma, Jessica's Saturdays, the annual donation, left 1 cookie on the grave. She would have said good about all of it. Jessica's therapy, good. The annual donation, good. Emma, good. Then, make sure the cookies aren't dry, even at the grave. Daniel had tea ready when I came home from the cemetery. He's learned what I need. Specific love, he's learning it. 1 year after, not one incident of Jessica making a family event about herself. Not one. Therapy. 3 Saturdays a month at the charity. She is trying. It's working. Emma, at 6 months, tried to eat the tablecloth and looked extremely pleased. She looks like Dorothy around the eyes. I told Jessica. She said, "You're right, she does." Jessica said about the charity, "The kids don't care who you are. They care if you can make the story interesting." I have to earn their attention. Dorothy's lesson. Dorothy spent 31 years knowing attention is earned, not commanded. The letter sent Jessica to children who taught her the same thing. Dorothy teaching through a charity. At the 1-year family dinner, my father raised a glass to Dorothy. Just to Dorothy. Everyone raised theirs, Jessica included. That meant everything. Jessica raised her glass voluntarily to the woman who named her publicly and redirected her inheritance. Voluntary acknowledgement of someone who called you out. That's understanding. The quiet plan answered a 15-year question. Started a marriage right. Redirected Jessica. Funded 47 children. Brought her to the classroom. From a school teacher who prepared. One more part, the real verdict. Not the legal one. That's done. What Dorothy actually left me underneath all of it. Preparation tells you what someone believes is worth their time. Dorothy prepared for 20 years. She believed I was worth 20 years of her time. I keep a notebook now. Not a journal, a notebook for what matters. Daniel found it. Said, "You've started making margin notes." I said, "I had a very good teacher." The notebook has sections, the marriage, Jessica, Dorothy's words, and 1 blank section labeled, "For whoever comes next." I'll know when to start it. The Dorothy section, things she said, lines from the notebooks, lines from the letter. The first line, people tell you who they are every day. Your job is to pay attention. Daniel asked, "Is there a section for me?" I said, "There are entries, not a section." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because you're not a category." He said, "That's the nicest thing." I drove past the Whitfield Estate on our anniversary. Another wedding. The estate doesn't know what happened in its ballroom. it just keeps hosting. Dorothy was in it once. First anniversary, we made Dorothy's cookies together. He measured the butter precisely. She would have approved. We donated to the charity. We ate cookies. Exactly right, Daniel said. You stood up in a ballroom of 80 people and your voice did not shake once. I was there. I watched you. He needed to say it. I let him. I said, Dorothy was right about you. Precise without being cold, warm without being sentimental. She met you twice. He said, clearly she was very attentive. Year 1, he makes better coffee. I'm better at difficult conversations. He knows when not to have them. I know which floorboard creaks. He knows which drawer sticks. Dorothy would have said, this is what marriage looks like. The drawer that sticks and the person who knows how to open it, not the ceremony. This. January 14th, 3rd reading. This year I noticed the opening. She introduced herself by relationship, not credentials. My name is Dorothy Calloway, and I am Sarah's grandmother. She could have introduced herself as a retired educator. She chose Sarah's grandmother. The love was the credential. She led with what mattered most. 18 months, still in therapy, still volunteering 3 Saturdays, not one family event made about herself, 18 months of a different pattern. I'm calling that progress. At 8 months, Emma reaches for me when I come in. She knows I make the funny faces. Aunt Sarah. Dorothy would have gotten a very specific look. Dorothy would have brought Emma a book on the first visit. Age appropriate, precisely chosen. She would have read it. Then said to me, she's already paying attention. Watch. The quiet plan wasn't just for the wedding, it was for everything after. The marriage. Jessica redirected. Emma born into a different family. She planned for a future she wouldn't see. 3 tools: observation, preparation, precise language, 20 years observing, 6 preparing, and every word chosen with 31 years of professional precision. From Dorothy's tools, I pay more attention now. I prepare deliberately. And I say exactly what I mean. It takes longer, but it works better. 200 clips in. What I've been building toward, the verdict is not about Jessica, not about the estate. It's about what she left that isn't in the codicil. Not in the codicil, 20 years of being specifically watched. Not in the codicil, someone had already prepared an answer before the question arrived. That changes everything. The document is filed under Dorothy. The knowledge is filed in me. I carry it everywhere. Monday morning, difficult conversations, the next family dinner, in meetings when someone questions my numbers, I check, then I know. I don't doubt first. At family dinners, I pause, ask what Dorothy would say, then say it. At work, I've gotten more precise since the wedding. I choose words more carefully. My manager noticed, said, "You've gotten very precise." I said, "I had help." What the letter actually is, a recorded observation of someone who paid attention for 30 years. A document of love written with professional precision. The last line, acknowledgement that it happened, a 30-year observation, then love. She didn't end with the observation. She ended with the love. That's the whole thing. What would I write? I'm building my own 30 years. The notebook, the margin notes, the blank section for whoever comes next. I'll know when to start. Daniel knows about the blank section. He said, "Whatever you write in it, I'll be there when it's needed." I said, "I know." Same 2 words as always. He doesn't say them twice by accident. 1 year of marriage taught me, love is a daily practice, not a state. Some days better than others. Dorothy wrote it, the marriage is what you choose every morning after. 2 years later, the desk has Emma's handprint on the corkboard, next to the literacy charity report, next to the staging note. Dorothy's envelope still in the center. The quiet plan didn't end at the reception. Annual donation. January reading. The Notebook. Jessica's Saturdays. Dorothy set it in motion. It runs. I just tend it. 2nd January 14th reading. This year I noticed she described Daniel as the kind of man who shows up quietly and stays. He read it, said, she got it right. 2 years, Jessica still in therapy, still 3 Saturdays at the charity. We watched Emma take her first steps together at a family lunch. That's the 2-year mark. Jessica said, I want Emma to know her mother got better. I said, she will know. She will. I said it with Dorothy's confidence, the preparation done, trusting the variable. 2 years later, the classroom has expanded. A second reading corner. More books. Her money is in the walls, the books, the corner she didn't know she was building. I went to the charity with Jessica. I watched her earn a child's attention, making the story interesting. Dorothy would have given exactly 1 nod. I told Jessica, Dorothy would have liked watching you do that. She would have said, good. Jessica, just good? Me, from Dorothy, good is the whole thing. 2 years, parents trying harder, Jessica succeeding most of the time. Daniel knows everyone's rhythms. Emma is walking. This is the after. Dorothy prepared for it. 219 clips building toward one thing, what Dorothy actually left me that I carry for the rest of my life. It starts with understanding her. Then, something she wrote. Teaching is showing someone something about themselves they didn't know yet. That's what the letter did. I can stand up in a difficult room. I was worth 20 years of her attention. Act 4, the preparation. 20 years, 6 visits to Mr. Foster, 2 drafts, the staging note. All of that was Act 4. Act 5 is what it was for. Act 5, what I understand now that I didn't before the reception. It comes in 2 parts, what she gave me and what I know because she gave it to me. What she gave me, a 4-page letter, a codicil, a staging note, an envelope. Those are the things. Now here is what those things are made of. The letter is made of time. 30 years of attention. 20 years deciding I was worth it. 6 years of precise language. 56 years of her time. The staging note is made of 30 years of watching someone stand up straight in hard situations. Written as fact, not hope. Faith, written as fact. The envelope is made of her decision to write my name in her handwriting, seal it, and trust it to someone safe. My name in her handwriting. That's the whole thing. Part 2, what I know. Not what I feel, what I know. Feelings change. Knowledge doesn't. Dorothy gave me knowledge. Evidence. She was a teacher, she knew the difference. Knowledge 1, I was seen. Specifically, completely, over 30 years, by someone who chose to keep watching. A documented fact. Filed under Dorothy. Knowledge 2, the Jessica pattern was real. I did not imagine it. Documented. Named in front of 80 people. 15 years of wondering answered by 80 witnesses. Knowledge 3, I can stand up straight in a difficult room. I know this because I have done it. It's in the video, the photo, 80 people's memories. Evidence-based self-knowledge. Together the 3 knowledges remove 3 questions. Was I imagining it? Could I handle it? Was I worth someone's attention? She answered all 3. In public. The real verdict, she used everything she had to answer 3 questions I hadn't known I was asking. And knowing the answers is the real inheritance. Private questions, answered in public, can never be asked again. That's why she chose the ballroom. She closed the loop on questions I had carried for 15 years. The loop is closed. I can't ask those questions anymore. They were answered in front of 80 people and filed under Dorothy. Public records don't disappear. What I carry, the knowledge that I was seen completely by someone who used everything she had to make sure I knew it. doesn't weigh anything, makes everything easier. Dorothy carried 20 years of watching a pattern she couldn't fix normally, 6 years preparing the fix she could do, not knowing if she'd see it work. It weighed something. She gave 26 years of preparation. I gave 30 seconds in a ballroom. That's what she asked for. I gave it. She was right that I would. That's the exchange. One section of the letter I haven't shared, the last thing she wrote to me. I kept it because I wasn't ready to say it out loud. I'm ready now. She wrote, I have watched you carry things alone that you should not have had to carry alone. I am sorry for what I could not prevent. She apologized. My grandmother. I read that line and had to put the letter down. She was sorry she couldn't stop it. She did stop it, 14 months later. She was sorry it took that long. She wrote, I am leaving you the only thing I have that will serve you, a public statement that you are worth watching, worth preparing for, that you will stand up straight. She wrote, I chose you specifically, not because you needed it most, because you earned it most. That's the verdict. That is the whole verdict. The verdict means 30 years of attention concluded I earned it, not granted, not by obligation, earned through who I chose to be. The staging note is a grade. What I chose, to keep showing up, to carry things with precision rather than performance. She watched those choices for 30 years, and she graded them. She also wrote about Jessica. She is still being formed, not finished. She has time, and I believe she will use it. 3 Saturdays a month later, she was right. She was right about everything. Sarah will stand up straight, right. Jessica did something, right. Jessica will use her time, right. 31 years trained her to be right about people. The last sentence of the final section, use your voice. It's the clearest one I've heard. 31 years of children's voices. She said mine was the clearest. She told me to use my voice. And I did. In a ballroom of 80 people, in my wedding dress. But it was both our voices. She wrote it, I said it. Together. Has someone ever used everything they had to make sure you knew something about yourself you needed to know? Or have you been that person for someone? Drop it in the comments. We're approaching the end. The last thing to tell you. And then the loop close. This story started with this envelope. It ends with this envelope. The last thing I know, when someone sees you completely, you move differently afterward. You speak differently. You use your voice differently. Being seen changes what you are. How I move differently, I stand up straight in difficult rooms. I say exactly what I mean. I prepare carefully. I keep a notebook for whoever comes next. We're back where we started. The same kitchen table, the same envelope, but now it's open. The letter beside it, the broken seal, everything different. Clip 1, envelope closed, story not yet told. Now, envelope open, letter read, seal broken. 254 clips between closed and open. The broken seal, D-Sec, Dorothy Calloway. She pressed it herself. I broke it in front of 80 people. The whole story in one physical act. The letter is filed under Dorothy. Behind it, the codicil, Mr. Foster's final email, the staging note photocopy, the broken seal, everything filed. That's Dorothy. This envelope, her hands on it, Mr. Foster's, mine, touched more than anything I own. Now I'll tell you what it gave me. What the envelope gave me, proof that someone paid 30 years of attention and concluded she is worth it. She will stand up straight. She has the clearest voice. Sarah will stand up straight. She always does. Above my desk. Every morning I see it and think, she was right. I was right to trust her. We were both right. 6 years preparing, an attorney she trusted, me to open it, the room to hear it. All of that was for what I'm about to say. My sister announced her pregnancy at my reception in front of 80 people. That is what happened. My grandmother had written something for that exact moment. That is what changed it. My grandmother was a retired third-grade teacher who read people carefully, with notes in the margins, and spent 6 years making sure I had what I needed when I needed it. What she actually left me is the knowledge that I was seen. Completely, specifically, for 30 years. By someone who decided what she saw was worth protecting. The real verdict: my grandmother was right. About me. About Jessica. About Daniel. About the room. Paying attention for 30 years is how you get to be right about everything. My sister thought she was making that moment about her. She wasn't. My grandmother had made that moment about something else 20 years before it happened. That moment was about a retired teacher standing up through her granddaughter's voice in a room of 80 people and saying, "I see you. I always have." This is where we started. Clip 1, sealed. Now broken. Everything said, everything filed, everything known. This is the loop. I'm still in my wedding dress. Same as clip 1. The same night. 268 clips of the same night. Dorothy's letter makes one night last forever. She spent 6 years making sure this envelope would reach me. 30 years earning the right to write what's inside. I spent 30 seconds proving she was right. My grandmother left something behind for me. The envelope, yes. But really, the proof that someone spent 30 years watching me and decided I was worth it.